So let's talk about something we all think we understand: strength. We're often taught that it's about pushing harder, about being tough, about visible effort. But what if I told you that real strength, the kind that gets us through the really tough stuff, is actually something a whole lot quieter? That's what we're going to explore today.
Yeah, let that one sink in for a minute. Strength doesn't always look strong. This is the big idea we're going to unpack. It suggests that everything we see on the surface, the hustle, the grind, the achievements, that might not be the real story of what it means to be resilient.
Okay, so before we dive in, let's set the stage. How do most of us typically think about strength and making progress? Well, it's usually this very specific, high-effort model that we're all taught to admire.
And wow, look at the contrast here. On the one hand, you have the old belief system that so many of us live by. Progress has to be loud, it's got to be measurable, something you can almost show off. But the new reality we're talking about, it's all on the right. It's internal, it's gentle, it's about being aware.
This just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's that all-or-nothing trap. If you can't go to the gym for a full-on intense workout, you just don't go at all. If you can't write that perfect first draft, you just stare at a blank page. It leaves zero room for just showing up.
So what does it take to shatter that kind of rigid thinking? Well, for the author of our source material, it was a deeply personal loss, and that became the turning point for everything.
The expectation was pretty straightforward, right? A loss that devastating, it's supposed to make you weaker, more fragile, unable to keep it all together. And that fits perfectly into that old idea of strength. If you're not pushing forward, you must be falling apart.
But this is where the story takes a fascinating turn. The result wasn't weakness. It was this surprising, incredibly profound honesty. Grief just stripped away all the pretense and forced a hard look at what was real. And this wasn't some abstract philosophical honesty. No, it was real. It was tangible. It was finally being honest about just how bone-tired she was. Honest about her own limits, what she could actually carry and what she had to put down. And most importantly, honest about what strength really looked like now. This is where that old way of thinking just starts to crumble. So out of that experience, a whole new understanding begins to take shape. And that brings us to the absolute heart of this whole thing. The idea of finding strength, not in pushing ahead, but in simply staying put.
Okay, so let's define it. What is quiet strength? Well, it's not about performing. It's about being present. It's about holding on to that connection with yourself, with your body, especially when life feels like it's completely reshaping you from the inside out.
Sometimes the best way to understand something is to look at what it isn't. And quiet strength isn't about powering through or forcing yourself to be productive. It's not about pretending you're okay when you're not. And it's definitely not about proving how tough you are to other people. It's actually a radical kind of authenticity.
I just love the power in these three little words. This kind of strength doesn't need to be loud or flashy. It doesn't need an audience. It's just there. It's a steady, constant presence. It stays. All right, that all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like in the real world? How does this whole quiet strength thing translate into things you can actually do every day?
See, the new kind of progress is found in these small, almost invisible actions. It's not running a marathon, it's just doing a simple twist in your chair to get some air in your lungs. It's not a screaming match, it's a quiet physical release. And it's not about bottling up your sadness, but about creating a safe space for it on a slow walk.
And this is so important. The point of these actions isn't to look good or impress anyone. There's no before and after picture here. The goal is simply to stay connected to yourself. They're done because they feel absolutely necessary for your own well-being.
This completely reframes how we think about tenderness. We often see it as a weakness, right? But here, it's presented as a form of deep awareness. It's the feeling of your body and mind actively working to process a new reality. It's literally the feeling of transformation happening.
Okay, now let's bring this all back to you. This last part is really an invitation to apply these ideas to your own life, especially if you feel like you're carrying something heavy right now.
I want you to really hear this. You are not behind. In a world that is obsessed with timelines and goals and milestones, that feeling of being behind is such a heavy weight. This is your permission to let that go. You're right where you need to be. And you're not broken either. When you can't perform at your old 100%, it's so easy to feel like something's wrong with you.
But healing, adapting, that's not a flaw. That's just being human.
And one more for good measure. You are not failing. If your idea of success is still based on that old tough-it-out model of strength, then of course being gentle with yourself can feel like failure. But this is your chance to change the definition of success itself.
So you see, you're not failing. You are becoming. You're becoming someone who listens to what their body actually needs, someone who moves with kindness instead of punishment, and maybe most importantly, you're becoming someone who realizes their worth was never, ever about how much they could produce.
And just like that, we're back where we started. We began with this quote, but now it lands with so much more meaning, doesn't it? That quiet, unglamorous, simple act of staying present, staying honest, staying with yourself through it all, that is the ultimate strength.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. It's not asking how much you're doing or how fast you're going. It's just a gentle question. Are you choosing a moment of quiet? Are you choosing a little bit of gentleness? Or maybe you're just choosing to show up for yourself, however that looks today. Because whatever it is, it's enough. Thank you for listening.